So let's get to In the Heights, a new movie streaming on HBO Max right now and hopefully in a cinema near you. So this is directed by Jon M, who also did Crazy Rich Asians and is about to do the sequels Rich People Problem and China Rich Girlfriend, which all sound really interesting. In 2008 and 2010, he also directed Step Up 2 and 3. So he's well versed in the dancing genre, which he also brings really well to life in the Heights. So the logline reads, a film version of the Broadway musical in which Uznavi, a sympathetic New York bodega owner, saves every penny every day as he imagines and sings about a better life, that being back in the Dominican Republic. Do you enjoy musicals like generally, or was there anything outstanding about In the Heights?
I don't go out of my way to watch musicals, and I really think it's because I prefer a really cool dialogue-driven film over a singing and dancing kind of film.
Right, yeah.
But there are a few instances where I would probably sit down and watch a musical again. A great example, very, very similar example, Hamilton, the musical.
Right.
The movie version that came out. I watched that immediately after watching it with my girlfriend, and I fucking loved it. Like, that was incredible. Almost same deal applies here. Now, unfortunately, I had to squeeze In the Heights in very last minute. I watched a third of the film last night, a third of the film this morning, and a third of the film before I got home before the podcast.
Right.
So it basically separated into three acts, and it was pretty good. So I watched the film, and they all pretty much, I ended them all on a musical act, and it was really, really good, all of them. So that was pretty good. Overall thoughts of this film. How do I summarize it? Because my head's in three different places when I think about it.
Oh, fuck, I hate myself. Such an idiot. It's so hot in my room. I'm gonna ventilate.
Just hold the fan up to your face again, man.
Yes. Here's a nice sound for all the podcast listeners. That's my fan. This is definitely not staying in, but it is 30 degrees in my room, not outside, in my room, because I don't have an AC. So, I'm thinking about getting one, but they're so expensive, and there's a lot of shitty ones as well. So, the fan has to do for now. I got another 5 minutes in me. Lachlan, continue.
All right. Overall thoughts of the film: really well created.
Yeah.
Great vision of this idea. I don't know if I overall really enjoy the story. I don't know if it flows as much as I'd really like, because it does feel like it jumps around the place quite a bit. But again, with this being a musical, I don't care about that fact. Because I do feel like this is just, it's 3 days of this neighborhood, or like a week in this neighborhood's view, and that's why I don't mind it jumping around, because it goes through so many different perspectives.
Right. Yeah. It's a typical musical style where you have like the the makeup shop and the beauty store owners who are like the funny guys on the side, which I am the most well versed in Les Miserables. That just seems like the Thénardiers to me, like the funny comedic relief. But you got that in a lot of characters as well, which I think makes it so refreshing. It is just sparked with a lot of vibrancy, and I think Jon Chu uses the cinematography in a really engaging way that, like, he cuts a lot, but it always feels like it's on purpose. The whole opening was actually posted on YouTube, so I don't consider that a spoiler. So the first opening song, In the Heights. And I want to get your thoughts on this, but I thought it had that almost Baby Driver-esque aesthetic where they used a lot of like seemingly diegetic sound right from the scene. Obviously not diegetic because it's a song, but they kind of implemented it, and I thought that was really engaging right away, especially because those songs, they can last, like that opening song is like 10 minutes long, and there's a lot of those scenes where a bunch of the dialogue is also part of the song, and musicals sometimes are just like talking, and then you have a song reflecting on a feeling. But in this, and it also does this in Hamilton, Miranda kind of writes his musicals in a way that most of the dialogue that is spoken is part of a song. And I just find that really refreshing, you know, that because he talked about like you like dialogue-driven movies. This is still a dialogue-driven movie. Just they sing it on note and on key and with a rhythm to it. That's just what it is to me, I guess. Do you have a favorite musical that you would go to if you had to choose one?
As in like an actual musical?
Yeah, like an actual. You mean like a musical? It's hard to define, right? As soon as there are people singing in it, you could clarify that as a musical, I guess. Yeah, I guess. But if you have a favorite, otherwise we'll just skip this question. We'll move on.
I really don't have a favorite musical, I guess.
You are a fake friend. I showed you, of course, my performance of Les Miserables from 2016.
Oh yeah, sorry.
To not say that was your favorite of all time is so
That
insulting.
was my favorite of all time.
Yes.
It was fabulous.
How could you?
Sorry, man.
Okay, thank you. Let's move on. Now that I get my gratification and I feel validated as an artist, we can move on. Yeah, I touched on it already. The editing and the cinematography. Do you have any thoughts on it? Like, how did it?
I think the editing was on point, and I think the cinematography, in terms of lighting, especially in a couple particular scenes, especially if it's indoors, I think there's a lot of really good lighting that takes place, or at least really stylized lighting, I should say. I think overall, I enjoyed the look of the film from the start to the end, whether it be through a musical number or not. I think every shot added to the scene, I think felt like it was out of place.
I felt that the overhead shots were kind of an interesting perspective that he continued to use over and over again.
Okay.
I just thought that it added a really interesting dynamic to it. I think in certain scenes, it goes a bit overboard on what he does with the reality of scenes, like being grounded in the numbers, musical numbers that they do. Sometimes he goes a bit overboard, and in some of the moments where they like, it's not a spoiler, but like in one of the songs, he accentuates all the movement with like a bunch of almost hand-drawn things that spawn out of the movement from the characters.
Oh, yeah.
And it works really well. I think it stems on the backs of so many really charismatic performers, especially Corey Hawkins and Anthony Ramos. I think he as the lead does such a good job at, as the logline already describes, he's a sympathetic guy. Like you look at him and you, maybe this was just for me, but I was already rooting for him to succeed. Okay. He has that charm to himself in a sense that I couldn't help but like root for him in a sense of like, yo, you get the girl, get the job, get whatever you want. But yeah, and he's also a great performer, I guess, overall. This is just me simping about Anthony Ramos, actually. Maybe that's just what it is, because I love it and I love him in Hamilton as well. But I guess something that has to be noted here is that from performances, a bunch of returning cast come from the original Broadway musical. A total of 3 people, I guess. You got the grandmother, right? Claudia. She reprises the same role that she played in the Broadway adaptation. And we got Manuel Miranda, and he played Usnavi in the original Broadway back in 2005, a long time ago. And he's now playing the Piragua guy. I don't even want to try it. I tried to take a course this semester in Spanish. I didn't. This is gonna show today, okay? So I will try to pronounce certain things when we talk about the songs and whatever. But anyways, and also Christopher Jackson, who played Washington, I think, in George Washington in Hamilton, and he was Benny in the original.
Those two performing in this, Lin-Manuel Miranda and Christopher Jackson, because obviously they play Hamilton and Washington. Having this feud between them was quite fun, I will say. Yeah,
it almost felt like a reference to Hamilton in a sense.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's because I haven't seen the Broadway original. I just read up on it and I saw that they switched around the songs quite a bit, like when they would show up, and even cut out parts, extended certain bits. So that wraps it up for our non-spoiler review. So let's get into our spoiler review for In the Heights. All right, Lachlan, do you want to try again and sum up the movie for us?
All right, so a bunch of people who are living in a small block on Manhattan Island. I don't know American geography.
In Washington Heights.
You know what? I'm gonna butcher it even more. A group of people living on a town block in Queens, not in Queens, in
Manhattan.
in,
It is in Manhattan.
Man,
It's right on the border
damn
to
it.
the Bronx.
Oh, okay. Wait, is that not Queens? Hang on.
No, Queens is really further away.
Hang
right?
on. I want to find out.
You've been to New York. You should know all the
Oh,
5
yeah,
boroughs
I've been
and
to New York. I went
every
to the
place.
tourist destinations.
You boring fuck. Why didn't you go to the Washington Heights? I think they joke about it like, ooh, there's some tourists who kind of went too far north in Manhattan.
Oh, I found Washington Heights. Yeah, I found Washington Heights.
Yeah. I looked it up. There's also a district that is just like Dominican, like Dominican borough or whatever, a bit further north.
Whatever. Anyway, let me start this again. A day in the life of Washington Heights. It follows a group of people who can dance way better than me and can sing way better than me and are way hotter than me. And
It's all about your insecurity. What the fuck, Lachlan?
makes me feel insecure about everything about me.
Got better internet as well.
Talk about how they got better internet than me. They talk about how rough life is and how they want to make it a bit. Everyone wants to have a better life, but they already have a better life than me. Because they can sing, dance, and act, and are starring in a musical.
And a hot.
And a hot.
Right. This feels like we're talking more about the meta thing of the actors.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, but effect. No,
let's just get into the story. It's the best summary you're going to get from me.
No, that's right. There's a lot of stuff that came to the surface. Maybe not the stuff we were looking for spoilers about In the Heights, but we learned a lot about you.
Thanks,
anyways,
man. I try.
Story with spoilers now, and I think the best way to do this is maybe to jump straight into the songs because they're such a big component of the whole narration. So I was just wondering, was there like any song that stood out to you that was your favorite?
Yes, there are a couple that I really like. So is it Paciencia Yefe?
Paciencia, that means patience and hope. Yeah, that's
so
that's a solo from the
her death song,
Abuela. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Sick. Because her death song, man, I was like, this is fabulous. Like
that is the standout of the whole thing to me as well. Yeah.
I think it's such a great mixture because obviously a lot of this is to do with people of color as well, and it's unfortunately there was a bit of criticism as well that it didn't show off enough darker skinned people of color.
Was there actually?
Yeah, no, there was some criticism about that.
Really?
Okay. Yeah. I don't want to go into it because we're not a political podcast, but
yeah, it felt more like it was highlighting, I guess, Spanish speaking parts.
Yeah. Anyway,
I guess it's more about that.
It definitely shows a rougher side of her life. I mean, it gives so much context to her character just before we lose her as well, explaining her story.
I got a note on that because in the Broadway adaptation, apparently I've never seen it. That song happens way earlier, and
oh wow,
her death scene is way later in the story. So it's like I think it's the end of Act 1 or whatever that she sings that song. And looking at it at a 3-act structure, and then I think she ends at the end of Act 2, and then Act 3 is the rest of the movie, which I think would have worked in the movie version as well, way better, because we see her as this like, oh yeah, it's the grandma, she's the grandma of the whole like neighborhood, but we don't get much from her, and then we lose her immediately, which is it's nice that afterwards we get that celebration song for her. In a sense that it also represents the rest of the neighborhood. But I think we could have gotten so much more out of a central character that had the best scene in the movie for me, if we hadn't just like ended it right there. I think it is a nice moment, especially visually at the end of the song. I thought that like she looks back, right? And what does she say? Wait, I wrote it down. She says, again, butchering the Spanish, but Paciencia Ife. She looks back at everyone, kind of getting in line, and this blue, white, and red flashing, like the American flag, right? And she turns around and kind of goes her path, to me symbolizing kind of home, back to where she thinks she belongs and what her actual identity maybe is, back to her mother as well. And it's such an intimate little moment. And I didn't notice it the first time when I watched it. It kind of skipped through a few of the songs again. And it's just really well done. I don't know what else to say. But yeah.
Okay. So obviously the music's done by Manuel Miranda.
Yeah.
And that's where you get a lot of the style of the songs. There's a lot of times throughout his, whether it be Hamilton or whether it be this, where the whoever's singing will actually start speaking. They won't sing something. They'll say a certain word just as normal dialogue. And in that song, just at the end, it like cuts to her in bed, looking, smiling, happy, and then closing her eyes and stops breathing. And then back to that shot of her, I guess, dreaming, going towards the white light, and she just says, okay. And I went, oh, fuck, no, don't do this. And it was probably one of the most heart-wrenching moments for me in the film. It was, God, it was so well done that, and again, I think that entire part is my standout, like just straight away.
Maybe Chu was just looking out for us that we don't cry too much during this movie. And he was like, you don't get as much of Abuela because you'll bawl your eyes out if you get even more screen time for her before she dies. Yeah, it was just a wonderfully done song. And another highlight, I think, is the opening. Because we don't get that with Hamilton, comparing it to something else that Miranda did, is that we get such a good introduction to every single character that is relevant in the story in the span of 10 minutes. And you, not only that, you get the whole neighborhood reflected in it, with the ensemble being like people going about their day, like ranging from people, I think, playing cards, cooking breakfast for their children in a small apartment, to a police officer getting ready to go to work. It is such a good reflection of the entire neighborhood in that short scene. Then everyone coming together, having that like big dancing number, like going up, not bird's eye view, but pretty looking like down on them, seeing the vastness of the actual Washington Heights, where I think they filmed most of it, which is also like adds a layer of authenticity to it as well. And then everyone goes back to their day as well. So like, it's already established we are going to be in this musical world where people are going to dance and sing instead of talking. And I believe it. And sometimes in film adaptations of musicals, that's the struggle to make it work. So they do more of a thing like La La Land, where musical numbers are actual people just singing. And to create that reality that I buy into, my suspension of disbelief being high enough for someone to walk on a wall and dance, and me not going, oh, I'm going to turn this movie off. What the fuck is this? Is I think is a feat that you really have to get over, like to be able to create a world this authentically. Just buy everything, you know. But yeah, any other songs that would be
I really enjoyed the Carnival song.
Yes, that is my third favorite as well. That would have been the next one that I mentioned, Carnaval del Barrio.
Just because it's a mixture of all these flags and people dancing, and it really, I feel like, just shows off culture so well. And again, it's just a very, culturally diverse film, and it's a very focus in culture, diverse. It's got a very good focus on a particular culture, and it makes sense because this, I guess, Dominican Republic, Spanish culture they're focusing on is a very dance heavy culture, and that's where you can get these really awesome dance numbers where it doesn't feel unnatural. It feels very natural for this kind of like culture to dance around and sing and party. And again, I think it's a very well crafted piece, whether it be the musical, whether it be this film. But I think if we're talking about the film part, it's brought together in a way where it doesn't feel uncomfortable. There's definitely some musicals that can kind of feel too forced when it comes to musical numbers.
Very cheesy,
because of the way that it's written, where the words kind of flow and they feel really good. I guess rap, is a good way of putting it, is done in such a way that it feels natural. But again, I got to take my hat off to Lin-Manuel Miranda. It's a very fucking smart writer. Yeah,
because again, I haven't really listened to the soundtrack just on itself as well, so I don't know how much of the conversation bits that are part of the songs are in the actual music, in the actual musical that was on Broadway. But it just feels really organic, like even in the first scene in the Heights, right, when Vanessa enters the shop and they have the bit of like rambling in between. It manages to balance these really heartfelt moments that maybe not even in solos alone, but also in the ensemble songs, where it goes from like lighthearted, fun, romantic, flirting stuff to maybe mentioning on the side more of like, oh, there's some political stuff that we can splice in. That's the actual struggle of people. And I think it's the best way to approach a mass audience and maybe make them a bit more aware of something that they wouldn't be as familiar with what it actually is like. Like if you show someone who's a dreamer, who's an undocumented like teen struggling to find his place in the world, looking up to someone else who made it out of the neighborhood and got into Stanford, and he realizes, oh shit, I can never do that just because I'm undocumented. It's really humanizing in a sense that, you know, you feel for the guy. And I think apparently in the original one, the song he would definitely have gotten as well too. I think it's the highlight for a lot of people, the 96,000. It's pretty much the biggest number, I think, in the whole musical, right? With the amount of people around it and the numbers that they do. Apparently, I think that was the thing that made it possible for Usnavi to get out of the neighborhood. But I didn't do enough research on it, so I might just be talking shit here. But I think they changed him so he gives that money in support of Sonny, which I think makes a bit more sense. Otherwise, like he's not as dependent on a lotto ticket to get out of the neighborhood, because I think that would go a bit against the whole narrative of them really working hard to make it. I don't know. Was there any character storyline that you found the most intriguing, like Nina or Vanessa or Usnavi or Benny?
I mean, I really did like the relationship of the father-daughter dynamic.
Oh, with Kevin, yeah.
Kevin wanting to push his daughter, and was it Nina? Yeah.
Yeah.
Nina obviously feeling alienated at Stanford University. Now, I can't really speak for American universities. I don't know the stereotypes of particular ones. I know Stanford is prestigious, but
yeah, it's like a 3 or 4% acceptance rate and really expensive to even attend. Yeah, that's basically the vibe.
Yeah, it's funny because it's a very, very interesting dynamic between the two. Obviously, he didn't get these opportunities. He's wanting to give these opportunities. She doesn't want to take it because she feels alienated. So it's like I feel like most people would say that Kevin's in the right because, you know, he's just trying to provide for his daughter. Her saying no, but obviously then him being like, no, you must. It's kind of a bit more forceful. So you could definitely say Nina's in the right, but there's really no right and wrong. But I just feel like it's a very, very cool character progression between the two, especially when you find out that was it her mother that didn't get to finish high school.
Yeah, it definitely is like that. Maybe it is something that is familiar already in the type of story that it picks, with the the struggles of parent working hard so the kid can have a better future. But I think it adds a layer of why is it. It's not just the pressure that's on her. It's not about I don't want to do that. I want to do, like, it's not about I want to dance, I want to sing. It's, yeah, she wants to succeed, but it's the environment that is so alienating to her that is like driving her away from it.
Yep.
And that is a completely different character motivation that is so more interesting to me than like some other musical character that is just like, I want to dance and sing, I want to succeed in Hollywood. It feels way more grounded in what the character actually wants. And I wish we had gotten a bit more from Nina, because I feel like they kind of introduce her and they introduce that struggle, and we have that payoff between them at the dinner, right, where they lash out at each other and she refuses to take his money, but doesn't really go much beyond that, other than like Benny convincing her, I guess, to leave, although they are in a relationship, which I think is also like it's another good portrayal of don't just be blindly in love, but actually think about your future and having the best of someone else's future in mind. I think there's a lot of like good characters in here that I can stand behind, you know? And sometimes you get that idealized version of a romance that is so out of touch with reality. And although they were singing and dancing, I didn't think that about this movie. And it's just, again, it's just props to Miranda's writing and Chu's filmmaking ability. What do you think about the narration? The whole thing being narrated by Usnavi at the start? Because, like, you know, we look at that critically every time it pops up, right? Unless it's Goodfellas.
I don't mind, because obviously it's him telling a story. With a sneaky reveal at the end, obviously, that it's.
I love that reveal. Yeah.
And I was like, you motherfucker.
You got me.
I don't mind. Look, I don't mind it because it's a very cute way of doing a narration where it is where it's, you know, him actually telling the story, and that's what it is. It's us watching a story about him telling a story.
Yeah.
So
I guess,
it's
I
cool.
haven't thought about that, but it does make sense that then the whole thing is maybe amplified a bit by the dancing and everything. You know, it's part of the story. Although that wasn't at all the intention to like make this more realistic by or the whole musical part being just the way how he tells the story. But I mean, at the end, they do end it off with like the little girl looking into the camera. She doesn't wink, I think, but she looks into the camera, also on the beat of the song as well. Which I thought just those bits whenever she was on screen, she was such a cute kid, and just to see her enthusiasm, and I think it was just a good dynamic, and it's one of the few times where it didn't bother me at all to have that type of narration. I don't know if it were different if I had known a bit more about the story already, but it was already, all of it was so fresh to me that I just didn't mind it at all. But yeah, is there any other like bigger theme that you can see in the story? Because like usually in musicals, you have something really simple that you can break down to. Usually it's like growing up or breaking free or something like that. Was there anything special that stood out to you in this?
Reaching your goals in life, and your goals might not be as far as you might need to be to go to reach them or whatever.
You turned robot. Can you check for a second?
Yo, what's up? I'm fine. It's still recording.
If you're good?
It's still recording. It's probably just the internet. Themes of reaching your goal, but being blindsided the fact that your goal might be physically closer than where you think you have to be. Like you don't have to, you know, your dream doesn't have to be over east. Your dream can be in it can be in Washington Heights, like the same place that you grew up and the same place you would die. You know what I mean? Like it's it's just coincidentally like it can be there. So like, you know, you don't have to leave everything to do your goal. You can always probably do it somewhere closer. I don't know. I guess that's what I took away from it.
I mean, I'm not someone who struggles economically from being in a neighborhood like that where rent is really jacked up and you're surrounded by a lot of people. But I relate to that issue, that thing of like, what are you working towards and feeling like that is not where you are physically right now, but in a different country. For him, it has to do with heritage. It feels weird to compare myself here, but I relate to those to that sentiment. And I think he has also a quote where he says, "We work so hard to get there, but we forgot what's right here." And I think that's just it is beautiful that like he always thought that like the best parts of his life are in the past, but he just realizes that they're still ahead of him. Looking at his kid, and I think that it's just really beautiful. It's nice that you can create your own home, even if it is not back where you were born. And I think the dynamic of the tension that builds up from continuing a legacy and honoring your parents in a way is reflected in Usnavi, who I think he came here, what was it, when he was 6 or 7? The story of his name is also real funny. Like, what was it? His grandparent or his dad came to the US and then saw a boat that said US Navy and called him Usnavi. It's a funny little tidbit on the side, but yeah, him kind of indirectly trying to bestow the ideals that were put onto him from his parents and his dad, like keeping the bodega alive, and him moving away from it to the more like essential roots of it, at like the dream, completing the dream that his dad had. I like the way that conflict within Usnavi is handled, and the way that it resolves, that he finds his own community and his own family that he creates. And Nina has that more directly, I think, with the parent that really wants her now, who's still alive, to succeed and do better. And I think there's another scene between Kevin and Nina that is really telling when she comes back and tells him, I'm going to go back to Stanford, where he says that, this is the moment where you are better than me, just because you can see a future that I can. It's really nice. It's a hopeful note, the whole thing. Although it has that background of like trying to make it, and it's hard. It also has that really hopeful nature. Even though you move away and you lose that part of that community, you just grow as a human being. But yeah, I think that's just my love of musicals. If you put music along with it, you have good songs, especially if you have Anthony Ramos in it. And I'm probably going to like it. But yeah, Lachlan, do you have anything else to add to our
Not really.
review?
You just ended it on a very beautiful note, I must say.
Yeah.
It's a very beautiful note.
I love this film. It might be my favorite, other than the weird media creation that was Bo Burnham's Inside that I still don't know how to categorize it. And it's by far my favorite thing that was created in 2021. I think this is like right there.
Yeah, right.
Second one for me. So for a rating for me, I'm split between an 8 or a 9. I'm just going to go with what I've been doing lately and putting that 0.5 in there. So it's 8.5 out of 10 for me. And yeah, what about you, Lachlan?
I'm sitting at a strong 8.
Strong 8. I like that.
Because what gives,
if you put it on its side, it's endless.
Not saying on a sad note,
on repeat, which is how I'm listening to.
Not saying it on a sad note,
sorry.
but like I feel like the ending should have been a bit bigger than the opening. As I go out on a bang, which I just didn't feel like it did, which is why it came down a little bit.
It did, yeah, yeah. It
and
did.
also, I saw no animals, so lose another point.
What are you really looking forward to seeing? I don't know. What were you looking forward to seeing?
Oh, I know, there was a crab. Hang on. There was a crab.
There was a crab,
Fuck,
actually?
there was a crab. Fuck, do I put that? Fuck. Now that I think of it, there was a crab. Nah, fuck it.
The movie just maybe to say something that
no,
puts us down.
It was a CGI crab.
That,
it was a CGI crab. Nah, it loses the point again. It loses the point. I'm saying.
Oh, was it in the opening?
It was in the opening with the CGI crab. Yeah, fuck it. No, it's a 0.
No real animals. No 8. At least 1 point down for Lachlan because there were no animals. What, are you looking for something like cats in your musicals?
Cats,
or is
cats,
that also not
10.
a cat? Right, but there's no cats in Cats. It's animated cats. It's also CGI. I feel like you are a hypocrite.
It's a cat,
and you should stick with your 8 out of 10 rating. Okay.
If you really want me to,
it's a pussy. To
if
round
I
out
could
the
see
show.
Anthony Ramos in a crab costume, then sure.
Yeah, I'd love to see that. Maybe in a sequel or like a little short that they do. He's out there on Halloween with his little girl, and they are rocking a crab costume. I don't know. The movie just reminded me that I can't dance. That was basically it for like 2.5 hours. Like, oh shit, I can't dance. I'm the white guy on the dance floor just doing this, which you can't see because this is only an audio podcast and you will never get access to the video version of what I just did.